Ylands has officially released now in 1.0, just in time for the holidays, and today we're going to be talking about, well, is it worth it? Should you buy the paid DLC for Ylands? That is the Exploration DLC. In this video, we're going to compare that version to the free version that anyone can download on Steam right now, known as Ylands, and I'm going to be also talking about my initial experience with the game. So, let's jump in. First of all, huge thanks if you're watching my channel for the first time. I'm Vortak. I hope you'll hit subscribe and check out more Ylands content as well as other games and reviews and spotlights and all kinds of stuff. With that out of the way, let's discuss the differences here. What is Ylands and what is Ylands the Exploration DLC? And should you end up buying that? With any free-to-play game that has aspects where you can give it money, I would always recommend checking out the free version first before dropping any money at all, and that's exactly what I did. Actually, I was gifted the DLC, so a little bit different for me, but I still wanted to know what's the free version like? What would I get if I didn't have the DLC? And there's a couple different things to note here. The first thing I did is clicked on the big banner at the top, Play Ylands. And I jumped in and I found myself in this fully fledged world, and there was a queue I could join, and I hit the button to join the queue, and I found myself playing all these mini games. And there's this leveling system. I didn't dive too deep into it, but I played a few games. One of them was this game where you had to dodge these boulders rolling down a hill, and the longer you could last, the more points you get. I didn't do too bad at that one. There was this parkour course that you just kind of traversed. I managed to actually win that one. There was the shootout one that was really cool, and there was more I hadn't even tried, but I didn't do too bad. I was having a lot of fun, and I decided, okay, well, I don't have a whole lot of time this evening, so I swapped over to the other free-to-play aspect, which is this big, creative Sandbox. And I wasn't sure what to expect, but I jumped in, and I was already given this weird backpack with a helicopter thing, and flying around, and I realized that this is basically the game, but just like if you were playing Minecraft in creative mode. You just had all the tools. You can kind of play around with it. And that was actually kind of cool because it gave me a good bit of time to kind of familiarize myself with the controls and just how the game felt. I didn't really get to build anything because I was kind of getting impatient. I really wanted to see this DLC. So I played with it for a little bit, and I have to say, for a free-to-play game, there's a lot to do here. And I think they're kind of doing it right because they're giving you a taste, and then, you know, you find out that there's this whole survival game behind it. And that's where the paid DLC comes in. So what the devs did here was look to expand their community with the free-to-play side, and then put the core game, the Ylands that we've kind of grown to know over the past year or so, however long it's been in development now, and here's the survival game behind this paywall. So once you jump in, it's like a lot of survival games that I've played in the past. There are trees everywhere. You're on an island, as you would expect, I would hope. And what I mostly did was just kind of run around, and I immediately started grabbing things. And I was reminded of games like Ark, for example. The first thing you do in Ark, you're on like an island, and you start collecting grass and different plants and then twigs and rocks, and I'm picking all this stuff up, and as you go you kind of open up the crafting menu and see all the different things you can make. And again, as we would expect, there's axes and pickaxes and hammers and all kinds of crafty things you can just make right away. And that lets you chop down the trees that are bigger, not just picking up twigs anymore, chopping up rocks. So I kind of just played around and kind of did this. There was really no guidance that I went and sought right away. I did find an NPC at one point that kind of gave me some pointers, but by that point I'd already kind of figured out what I was doing. So I kind of had a good sense about me, and by that I mean the gameplay is just pretty comprehensive. It makes a lot of sense, and I felt really comfortable right away. What I wanted to do with my first bit of time in the actual survival mode was just build a house. And I kind of experimented off camera a little bit with different elements like logs and things like that, and they started to get pretty, I don't want to say complicated, but it just started to seem like I'm going to have to cut a lot of trees here. But one thing I did find is that bamboo goes a really, really long way. and I started to just gather a ton of bamboo, and before I knew it, I had more than enough to build a pretty decent-sized place. So I started getting different shapes and sizes of blocks. It's hard to kind of tell at first what a 4x1x4 is going to do for you while it's sitting in the crafting menu. You really got to craft these blocks and see them relative to your character before you start just kind of picking and choosing. So there was a little bit of waste there with my materials because I was having trouble like visualizing, okay, what does that look like? I think if I were to give the devs some advice here, I would say that when you put your mouse on one of these pieces, it'd be nice to see a little picture in the corner of like the piece in the world. I don't know what kind of time that would take to put a feature like that in there, but I've certainly seen things like that in other games. So that would have really helped me save some materials. But anyway, like I said, bamboo, there's plenty of it. So once I kind of figured out what kind of blocks I wanted, started laying down my floor, and this is where I think my negative critique of Ylands comes in, and that is the building is, although it makes sense, it's just a bit clunky. It's almost like there's too many options in the different ways you can take one block and kind of manipulate it. And I want all those options. I want to be able to flip it in all the dimensions, but it just, I don't know how to describe it, but it was just kind of difficult to line things up with the ground and get it kind of placed where I wanted it at first. And once you get used to it, you start to actually pick up speed and get some building done, which was nice. And of course, I took little breaks and cooked some food and ate and went back to building and gathering. And yeah, like before I knew it, I was actually getting a house set up, which was kind of cool. And I was starting to feel a lot of pride. That pride you get when you start to figure a game out for the first time. I was feeling that hardcore. And I also managed to find in the bamboo kind of side of the crafting menu a raft. So I plopped one of those in the water too and kind of played with that. And yeah, I had built this whole shelter and I was just super proud of it. So that was like my first survival experience. There's, from what I can tell just in the menus themselves, there's so many things in this game. And if I continue to play it, it's going to keep me busy for a very long time. But just based on what I've showed you here on the screen, obviously, and what I've been saying, I hope this kind of helps you decide whether or not Ylands is worth buying. I will give you my opinion on that subject, and I think if you haven't picked it up yet, you should definitely give this game a shot. If you're not willing to drop the money on the expansion right now, at least try the free-to-play version. Get a feel for the game. I would definitely recommend the Sandbox mode. Fly around a little bit, put some stuff down, kind of play with that aspect of it. And if you enjoy it, the survival mode is pretty broad, and there's a ton to do. And if you like games like this, I think you're really, really going to love it. And at the time of recording this, the paid DLC is $15. It normally retails for $20, so it's really kind of hard to argue. Think about how many hours you've gotten out of similarly priced, similar style games. And I believe if you like this genre, you're going to, the sandbox survival genre, you're really going to take to this very well. The reason I picked this style of video for my first Ylands video is because right now as upon release, it's getting some mixed reviews. It seems that the transition from beta to full release has been a bit bumpy, and I wanted to just give my take on the game, especially as somebody who's not really played it. I've seen a couple videos on it. I really didn't know much about it going in because I watched those way back. So I really enjoy it as a first-time player, and if you had already bought into it, you already have access to that DLC, so you're good to go. But if you're reading the Steam reviews and you're going, I don't know about this, I just wanted to give my take because I think there's a really good game here, and I hope to see the community kind of grow because this is a major community-driven game. So there's just a lot to do for a lot of people to share in. So very likely more Ylands videos to come soon. I hope you'll subscribe to check those out, and anything else I do here on the channel. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.